Hello again. In this video I want to show you how you can dual boot Windows 7 with Windows XP. Now this tutorial starts with Windows XP being your primary operating system, and you find that you've got quite a large hard drive and you think, why not share it and install a second operating system. And the second operating system we're going to install in this video is Windows XP, and we're going to install it alongside Windows 7. Now for this video, or for this tutorial, you're going to need a few things. You're going to need a blank CD, because you need to make a Windows 7 recovery disk, and that I'll show you how to do that in a minute. The next thing you're going to need is a small program installed in Windows 7 called EasyBCD. EasyBCD allows you to edit the boot menu so that when you first boot your computer, you're prompted with which operating system you want to boot into, which in this case will be Windows 7 and Windows XP. And of course the other thing you're going to need is your Windows XP installation disk. Now it might be worthwhile finding the drivers for the network for your computer. Whichever computer you've got, if it's a Dell, a HP, whatever it is, just go to the support section of their website and download the driver for XP for the network. And once you've got that saved, save it to a USB stick or something, and then we're ready to go to the next step. So now that you've got all the necessary requirements, the first thing you need to do is create this Windows 7 recovery disk, and the way you do that is go to the Start orb, go to Control Panel. I'm just trying to find it. Where is it? Security. Okay, if you can't find it there, just go to the top bar and type Restore. Now we're going to go to Backup and Restore. It's the top option. Now here on the left hand side you can see Create a System Repair Disk. You want to click on that, insert your blank CD and then press Create Disk. It only takes a couple of minutes, but this is vital in case anything should go wrong. So another thing I'd like to add is that I'm not actually going to be going through the install in this video because I've already done it. I've already dual booted XP with Windows 7, so I'm just going to explain to you the necessary steps in order to do it. So create that disk, and once you've got it, label it, and then we're ready for the next step. So once you've created your Windows 7 recovery disk, the next thing you're going to do is download EasyBCD, and you can find that on Softpedia, or you can just Google it, and you'll see various download options, one from Softpedia, one from download.net. This here is Softpedia. Just hit the download button. As you can see there, it's only 1.5 megabytes in size. Just download that and install it, and then we're ready to go to the next step. So we've now got EasyBCD installed. There's the icon. You should have an icon just like that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to partition the hard drive, and to do that just go to the Start button, right click on Computer and click Manage. Wait for this to load up. and on the left side there we're going to click Disk Management, and this is going to bring up all your hard drives. As you can see there, I have a D drive, I have my C drive, which is where Windows 7 sits, and I have Windows XP on a separate partition. Now yours might look a little bit different. This whole C drive might be just one piece. Now what you need to do is you need to partition it and make a separate partition, just like I've done. I've partitioned it to make a separate section for Windows XP. So you want to right click on the C drive and you're going to say shrink volume, and it's querying the volume for available shrink space, and that's basically going to tell you how much you can shrink your C drive by in megabytes. Now for XP it doesn't take up a lot of room, and XP, you can put it on a 40 gig space and you've still got 35 gigs of space to play with. So 40 gigs is plenty. I mean, I've got a 500 gig hard drive, so I've given Windows XP 160 gigs, but you might only have an 80 gig hard drive. Just halve it, give it 40 gigs. That should be plenty of room. Only takes a minute. Obviously when this is done, I'm not going to apply any changes to my hard drive. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. There we go. Now that is saying, where it's highlighted in blue, it tells you how many megabytes you can shrink your hard drive by, and you can change that if you want. You can't put more than what it says, you can only put less. Now this is saying that I can shrink my hard drive by 68 gigs. So if you've got an 80 gig hard drive, you might be looking at about 40, maybe 50 gigs. You can put whatever you want in there, so long as it is less than what it says in blue. So decide what you want to shrink it by, and then select shrink. Now that will take a couple of minutes to do, and you'll have something like this. Now here, where it's blue, once it's shrunk the volume, this C drive, which is where Windows 7 sits, will stay blue, and this one here will be an unallocated space, and it will show a black bar at the top there. So then what you need to do is you need to right click, and you need to it will say create volume. You need to create a volume, and when you do that, it will ask you, do you want to give it a name? In this case I've chosen Windows XP. And do you want to give it a drive letter? In my case I've chosen X for XP. So do that, and it will format in NTFS. Once that is done, close out of all the windows, put your XP disk in the drive and reboot your system, and make sure it's set to boot from disk. Now I'm using a Dell computer, so during the boot I normally press F12 and it gives me boot options where I can choose which device to boot from. You might be with a different machine, I don't know what the buttons are. If you're unsure yourself, then try booting into the BIOS and change it in there. Now obviously once you've finished doing what you're going to be doing, you then need to go back into the BIOS and change the boot back to the hard drive. So once you've done that, we're ready to move on to the next step. So now that you've been through the installation of Windows XP, you will get to this stage where it's asking where do you want to install Windows XP. Now here in this box here, it will list all your hard drives, all your partitions, and you should see in there the partition that you made within Windows 7, and if you named it Windows XP or whatever you named it, you should see it there. So highlight it and then press enter, and then carry on with the installation until it's finished, and then we're ready for the next step. So after the installation is complete, the computer will reboot and it should automatically start to load into Windows XP and complete the installation, which eventually will bring you to the Windows XP desktop. If you were to reboot, the computer will automatically reboot back into Windows XP, but that doesn't mean that your Windows 7 installation is gone. It's still there. We just then have to edit the boot menu. So in XP, if you need to install network drivers, plug in your USB stick where you saved the USB drivers to, install them, and then once that's done, you can then connect to the internet to download EasyBCD again. Now, the reason why I said to install it within Windows 7 was because sometimes in past experiences, when I've done a dual boot like this, when I've rebooted after the Windows XP installation, it has gone straight back into Windows 7. So then I've needed to use EasyBCD to add the Windows XP to the boot menu. But in most cases, it usually boots straight back into XP, because when you've installed Windows XP, it's changed the boot menu or the bootloader, so that every time you reboot your computer, it's going to go to Windows XP, because that is the last operating system that you installed. So all being well, you should have rebooted and you come straight back into Windows XP. So then you need to go to Internet Explorer and download EasyBCD again, install it, and when you've done that, I'll show you what you need to do to get Windows 7 back in the boot menu. So after installing EasyBCD, when you run it, you come to this page. Now we need to go to Edit Boot Menu, and here obviously you'll be in Windows XP, so then you need to add Windows 7 to the boot menu, and to do that you just click on Add New Entry, and here leave it on the Windows tab. You're going to select Windows 7, the top one. You can name it, you can just get rid of the Microsoft there so that it just says Windows 7, and here when you bring this drop down menu, you should see all the hard drives. Now you know that Windows 7 sits on the C drive, so click C and then Add Entry. When you've done that, go back to Edit Boot Menu and then say Save Settings. If, however, after the Windows XP installation, if it booted straight back into Windows 7, you need to do this in Windows 7 to add the Windows XP to the boot menu, and you do it in exactly the same way. Edit boot menu, add entry, leave it on the Windows, select Windows XP, which is the second one down, change the name if you wish, uncheck automatically detect, and then in my case, if you remember, I said I renamed the partition to Windows XP and I gave it the letter X for XP. So here I would just choose X and then say add entry. And that is all there is to it. Once you've done that, you can reboot, and to demonstrate I'm going to reboot myself and I'll show you what you should be prompted with. It really is that simple. Yes, I'm having a wee drink. So without pressing any keys, instantly we're prompted with which operating you want to boot into. So we've just been in Windows XP, so I'm going to demonstrate, sorry, I've just been in Windows 7, so now I'm going to demonstrate booting into Windows XP. And there we have it. You've now dual booted Windows 7 with XP. I would like to add, when I did this installation today, I came up with an unexpected error. After the Windows XP installation, and it prompted me to reboot, I rebooted, and then on the reboot I was prompted with a black screen and a message saying Windows could not boot due to incorrect configuration. Now if you get that, that is where we need the Windows 7 repair disk. Because basically after installing Windows XP, it messed up the Windows 7 boot loader, if you like, the boot sector, and on the reboot it was trying to boot back into Windows 7, and that is why I got the message. So then all I did was inserted the Windows 7 repair disk, and you boot from the disk, and once it's booted it will scan for operating systems. In my case it only found Windows 7 because obviously it was only searching the C drive, and that's, you know, I've only got Windows 7 on the C drive. So it found Windows 7, I press next, and then you're given a few options. Now the bottom option is the command prompt, and that is the one that we need. So click on command prompt. That's providing you get this black message that I got. It's the first time I've ever got it. I've dual booted many a time and I've never had this message. But what I did was inserted the repair disk, go to the command prompt, and then you need to type two commands, and this basically repairs the Windows 7 boot sector. You need to type bootrec, that's BOOTREC, space / fix MBR. Press enter and it should say that it was successful. Next, type in bootrec space / fix boot, all one word, FIXBOOT. Press enter and then reboot. Close out of everything and reboot, and then that will reboot into Windows 7, and then from there you can run EasyBCD just like I've shown you, and you can add the Windows XP to the boot menu. And that's it. So this final section of this video was just about if you get that black screen with that error message. I've had it once. I've dual booted dozens of times and I've only had that message the once, and that was today. I don't know why I got it, but that's what I did. I used the Windows 7 repair disk, typed in those two commands, it fixed the MBR, I booted into Windows 7, and then I added Windows XP to the boot menu using EasyBCD, and that's it. And now you can, once you've done that, you can reboot as many times as you want, and you'll always be prompted which operating system do you want to boot into, Windows 7 or Windows XP. And that's it for this video. I hope it wasn't too long for you. I should have really recorded as I was doing the dual boot myself. I just didn't think of it at the time, so I thought, well, I'll do a video explaining what it is that you need beforehand and what to do. So I hope this video helps. It's a good way of using up all that extra hard drive space that you're not using, especially if you've got a 1 terabyte hard drive and you're only using Windows 7. You know, why not have a second operating system? You know, at least you've got options. You know, if Windows 7 fails to boot for whatever reason, you might have a virus or something, at least you can, you know, boot into Windows XP and you can recover all your files and whatnot. So, you know, it's always handy to have options, and that's why I like to dual boot. So I hope this video helps you, and please comment, rate and subscribe. Any questions, please ask. I'm always at my computer, so I can reply more or less immediately. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.